it's gonna come in very handy. And Goblin is a very intelligent player, a very on-the-fly thinking player, so definitely good chances to take this match. I would say it's around a 50-50 for me. But here we are, and in the top left-hand side, it is the captain himself for the Shopify Rebellion, Harstem.
Down in the bottom right now, representing the Platinum Heroes, it is Goblin. Fun team for Goblin to join. Definitely a team that's been growing and kind of getting some players into these DreamHack events and showing them some cool support. So shout out to the Platinum Heroes and hope they're happy with their new addition. Goblin deciding to get out of Roddy's pocket finally. Roddy finally able to ship him off somewhere else.
Yeah, yes indeed. So yeah, good on Goblin. Platinum Heroes as well was, I think, active in the World Team League qualifiers, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were, honestly, in my eyes, I think they were a favorite to qualify. They didn't make it through. It's a brutal format, right? It's, you know, tough. One bad day can set you off badly. But they, yeah, I think they'll bounce back next year for sure, and definitely a team to keep your eyes on if you're keeping track of StarCraft 2 for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, for sure. I just saw the most fluid gateway drop in the world from Harstem. I don't know if you caught that, but like, did you see that? Like the probe just didn't stop moving at all, basically. Just
glided. Zero deceleration.
Yeah, that was so great. Yeah, that was incredible. But yeah, both players are going to be scouting after the second gateway. Both players opening with that second gateway. Actually, Goblin's going to go for a nasty right away here as he positions his next pylon out on the map. Harstem's going to be aware of that, however.
Yeah. It's going to be getting that set up. Goblin really, I mean, is leaning into this sort of cheesy PvP lately. Sometimes, though...
Target, right?
Yeah, I would imagine so up there as well, especially. But yeah, I mean, the thing is as well, Goblin is also not bad at playing like a later game PvP. Like, he may not be the most crisp at it, but he can definitely draw PvP out to like a much later stage if he needs to. I've seen him, you know... He's played in my tournament recently, and he played a match from replays. He sent me the replay files over, and I thought they were bugged because they were so large compared to like usual replay files. Turns out he just played like 3 50-minute PvPs in a row, and it's just like, oh my goodness, like that's gonna be a heck of a day casting that. But you know, that's what he can do. Like if the game doesn't go well for him early, he's very good at staying alive and dragging it out to those later stages as well. So a few different things to basically be on the lookout for.
Yeah, that's amazing, actually. And yeah, Harstem's going to go for a quick Nexus here. And Goblin mixing it up a lot. We've seen proxy robots from him in previous series. Now proxy's targeting, I think, the largest map in the map pool, right? Like, it's massive Cosmic Sapphire. So really cool stuff here. And to be honest, I like proxy's targets in general in this matchup just because you can usually decommission them after a couple of oracles, and they don't always see more use throughout the game, right? So yeah, I think it's perfectly fine to do that. And we'll see if Harstem is prepared. It looks like he is prepared very early on here.
Yeah, getting into position early. Obviously, he has that faster Nexus and this faster Robo facility. His initial choice here, too. Let's see what he does off the Robo. Harstem always likes these kind of safer openings as the hallucination, getting close to that Oracle. And yeah, Harstem, very aware of what's going on here, immediately in position. Turns that around. But yeah, faster Robo, so he can get a nice quick Observe Robe, get across the map and get vision. Sometimes a Prism to apply a little bit of pressure as well, but yeah, generally I would just say that this is a very typical kind of Harstem thing, just playing it kind of safe and just saying, yeah, I kind of want to get up to 2-3 bases and play from there. Harstem is definitely not so much about that kind of one base opening.
Yeah, for sure. So beautiful job from him, already anticipating where the Stargate might be, or at least the direction where it might be coming from, right? Drops the pylon, has the units in position, deflects the first Oracle, and now Goblin is going to try again. He's looking for an angle where it doesn't get spotted by that pylon, but there's an observer on the way there. So Harstem's going to be well aware of where he's going. Goblin going after a sentry at first, but now repositions to try and get some probes. We'll get 2 for his efforts, but that's not really enough to justify this investment just yet.
No, 2 probes is not a lot. It's Oracle Energy that was activated for a while, and 1 very low HP Oracle now is going to be difficult to keep alive for later stages of this game as well, especially, right? So that Oracle is probably going to be regretting its choices a little bit further down the line, as you have both of them go in Twilight, and it is fun to see kind of where they're at. I mean, obviously you've got the 2 Oracles on the side of Goblin. Harstem has the highest Stalker count, but Harstem's not really set up to do anything with it, and I really wouldn't have minded like a Prism, and at least just a poke across the map, because who knows what he could have picked up on just poking across the other side into a natural that has no battery. I get it, the Oracles are a threat, but you can always just leave a couple Stalkers behind, right? I don't know. I just feel like I would have liked to see him at least toy with the idea of moving out a bit. Is he? Nice set off. Stays out of the way. Doesn't block his Nexus.
Yeah, really, really expertly done from Harstem here. I really want to give a shout out to that observer as well. Look at that. I mean, it is such an unusual position to put it just outside of your main, but you know that you have a pylon on the other side, and you know that the oracles are going to take the short because your opponent is a pro player. The oracles are going to be taking the shortest path to move towards or between the main and the natural to come at unexpected angles, and the shortest path is always going to be covered by that observer. So yeah, very, very unique observer positioning, but it pays off big time, and these oracles just have not accomplished anything. Masterfully done in this early game from Harstem. I guess they did kill 2 probes, but basically anything.
2 probes is not a lot for the entire Oracle investment, right? I mean, 2 probes has not put Harstem behind on workers, considering he's been able to take a faster natural originally, now a faster third base. He obviously has the extra stalkers as well, so in theory his army is better during this time as well. We do have that one immortal mixed in on the side of Goblin as he pushes up the right-hand side. We'll see if he can cause any trouble with this, but I'd be kind of surprised if he manages to be very successful here. He's a few seconds earlier on Blink, but with a battery in place, even 2 immortals I don't feel like is necessarily enough to just push into a fight. Not with that many sentries for sure.
Yeah, those sentries are really going to do a great job of controlling the space here for Harstem, who is even willing to sacrifice a probe there if Goblin wants to push on forward, just for the information, right? So playing it really, really safe, like you were anticipating that he would. And now taking a faster third, so even though he is only 4 workers ahead for the time being, he's gonna be a couple of workers extra ahead here, as now the third completes for Goblin. So yeah, looking pretty good for Harstem. Already his row away is finishing as well.
Yeah. No, I like it a lot. Like, it definitely, I mean, all signs point toward Harstem being in the better position here so far. It's just a question of, can you do anything with that until we get to these kind of like maxed out armies? The disruptors are huge. Like, having these early disruptors is absolutely massive for him. So to me, that's one of the biggest things, being able to get into that count, because that's something that Goblin doesn't really have any counter to, apart from just trying to split and dodge. But we saw in the last matchup, sometimes splitting and dodging versus disruptors isn't really the best strategy to rely on. So yeah, that's definitely a big advantage for Harstem. Oh, the first Oracle ran out of energy. The other one had to pop off and finish the probe. Poor guy.
Yeah, poor guy. So those Oracles, or one of them at least, decommissioned. Did he even spot the 4th base? I think he did, as he takes his own 4th base, Goblin that is. And yeah, I mean, Harstem with very good control as well. If you look at the minimap, there's little red dots everywhere, whereas blue ones are kind of lacking. Now Goblin is spreading his wings a little bit more here to take control of this watchtower and get some vision going for himself, so that he doesn't have to be paranoid, right, about his opponent just hitting him from anywhere.
Yeah, nice Stalker blinking as well. Going to clear one out pretty much straight away. It's nice to just get that catch early.
But I love this from Harstem, because he knows where the army is, right? So a little bit more adventurous on the map.
Yeah, take advantage of it, right? Just like take advantage of anything you can. Is yeah, that Stalker kind of got blinked on, somehow got to blink away and got to save itself. So nicely done. It's just going to be seen as Stalkers going through and a few sentries going down. Okay. I mean, the thing is, Goblin kind of wants to be on the map because he wants to slow Harstem down, because if he doesn't, he's going to have disruptors firing into his base, and you just don't want to be backed up against disruptors. That is generally a big issue. So yeah, I like this from Goblin, meeting him in the middle, kind of putting on a bit of pressure. These force fields gonna work against you a little bit. Blink on cooldown, you lose 2 Stalkers there, only to the disruptor shot. And Harstem gonna have another disruptor shot landing, and Goblin's just giving up units here, unfortunately. This was too much for him. Like, it's a fine line to walk, right? I want him to be out here slowing this down, but don't go chasing like that, because you just gave up 4 or 5 Stalkers you didn't need to.
No, completely agreed, because yeah, if the disruptors make it to the other side, then you know every disruptor shot is going to threaten your probes, it's going to threaten your production, your just the whatever infrastructure you have at the front, basically, and you're backed up against the wall as well, right? So you don't have space to retreat with the rest of your units. It's easier to land those shots. So yeah, I think the middle of the map is where Goblin wants to be. You're completely right. It's just a difficult situation because he doesn't have those tools yet in the disruptors. Now adding his own robo bay as well as a second robo.
Yep. I mean, you have to, right? I mean, what else do you fight disruptors with? Sometimes Phoenix can kind of work, but I feel like that's almost too far gone, and it's just not as good as having your own disruptors on your side. So yeah, get into your own disruptors, like that a lot. Still just blinking forward again. I mean, to me, that is wild. You know there's disruptors on the map, and you're blinking into these fights and taking your blink off cooldown. This Immortal's going to go down. That's going to be number 2 that falls, and this is obviously pretty bad because suddenly Goblin really just has pure Stalks to defend with, and just feel like Harstem can take those few extra steps toward this base right now.
He sure can. Goblin's gonna have to come up from every angle here, it feels like, if he wants a chance at this engagement. But yeah, Harstem controlling the high ground as well as the better concave for the time being. Now going down that low ground where Goblin is gonna be able to spread a little bit more, but he is with his back up against the wall against these disruptor shots. And there's 5 of those disruptors available, only 2 at the moment half shots available, however, so that is a little bit of a saving grace for Goblin. Maybe Harstem could wait a little bit, hold the position, recharge those disruptors and go again, but now Goblin with the Zealot's help, he is going to be able to break out, though 5 of those fall to that disruptor shot.
Yeah, we had to get off one of these disruptors. He's just staying out of range. These blinks are, I mean, they're great because they're exactly where they need to be, I suppose, as again just has that blink available just to get out of reach at the very end here. Just going to be seeing the well, disruptor in production on the robo facility. Just going to be seeing our couple of extra cannons continuing through as well from Harstem back at home. We haven't really looked back at Harstem's side because there's not been much reason to. As obviously Goblin now sets up his defense still, and with his own disruptors coming into play, this is going to become a bit of a stalemate. Like, it's so hard to then push into disruptors. Even with a high account, sometimes Harstem with the confidence does get a disruptor shot, and that is fantastic to see. I mean, obviously getting rid of a disruptor is fantastic. I mean, it's just going to keep his aggression alive for longer in this game.
Yeah, especially when you got the greater numbers to work with. But like you were saying, pushing into disruptors is never easy. So once Goblin starts getting 4, 6, I mean, we've seen these games turn around where, you know, it almost feels like you can have so many more disruptors, but one single shot from the other disruptor will kill all of them anyway. So you got to be extremely careful. It's a very fine line to walk. And at this stage, it feels like we have reached that boiling point where it's once again worthy anyone's game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're talking about a disruptor shot to turn the tides right now, and that could come from absolutely anybody. I do like where Harstem's at in terms of his tech. Shadow Strike kicking in, Fleet Beacon in a second, Stargate coming up. I still like Harstem's little advantages. It is just, again, disruptors can change everything in an instant, right? So there's absolutely no guarantee. There's nothing set in stone at all just yet. As these disruptor shots won't go far enough for Goblin, neither will Harstem's. So a disruptor going down as, again, Harstem just want to be able to get some pickoffs every now and again. This disruptor shot, oh my goodness. Very last second blink away. But unfortunately, Zealots can't blink, and they are dying as well. And obviously, Harstem's army is much smaller when it comes to the Stalker count, and that's because he's setting up the harassing units, and he's on more probes as well. So that's kind of a concern if this fight breaks out in full over here and Stalkers get on top of Stalkers. Doesn't matter if you can obviously make use of that supply elsewhere.
Yeah, and Harstem is still contending for the middle of the map here while still harassing with DTs, and this is all while he makes a carrier transition as well. So great victories all over the place from Harstem, walking a very fine line, because if he does get caught on one of these fronts, then maybe Goblin can punish while the transition is going for the carriers. But if this transition happens, if he gets to like 4, 6 carriers while still applying this sort of pressure, then it will be an easy cleanup, I think, for Harstem, because he is making all the right moves now.
Absolutely. He is just keeping up the pressure brilliantly. He's transitioning well.
Ooh.
All of these DTs want to go around this right-hand side, and, well,
here comes Goblin, though.
Zealots that are going to try and save the day, but the thing is, Zealots, they really do give themselves up, and they get a lot of the disruptors, in fairness. It just wasn't cheap to do, but, I mean, like I said, I guess it does even out the disruptor count somewhat. It's now 5-5, so exactly where you wanted it to get to. There's a couple disruptor shots go forward, and, well, Goblin's going to retain some map control, but is that a good thing? Because suddenly these DTs are hitting again, so just as Goblin gets on the map, he's instantly punished, and yeah, he's just going to send it. It feels like I think he's going to have no choice other than just to try and win the game in this moment.
Yeah, it felt like that, but instead he's gonna go back and try to retake that base. I'm not sure how much I like that, because next there's gonna be carriers that he's gonna be contending with. So those are gonna be revealed right now. I liked that number of Zealots. I thought that there was an opportunity there to punish the army of Harstem out on the map. The problem was the Stalkers weren't close enough to really blink and help on with the punish, right? Which seems reckless because there's disruptors out, but those disruptors are gonna land onto something, whether that is Zealots or Stalkers. And at that point in time, I feel like you really had to go for the stronger punch. Now Goblin trying to make something happen on the other side here, as a little run-by tries to kill this Nexus, but it's gonna be the DTs with the easy cleanup for Harstem, who now has carriers. Goblin scrambling to get to Tempest worthy, but it's looking very difficult for him economically, especially.
Yeah, no, it really is. I mean, I like the Tempest. It probably is the right way to go, but how do you keep up with what Harstem has? And Harstem's bound to keep on dealing damage with these DTs on the map as well. I mean, I like this from Goblin. He's saying, well, in theory, if you're playing carriers and stuff, you have less mobile army, so let's go hit you big time on the left side of the map and see if we can make something happen over there. Leave my Disruptors at home to defend a little bit against Zealots, having to somehow find ways to deal with Disruptor shots, having to split away last second. Well, this is obviously going to turn into something of a base trade. Like I say, Goblin has some defensive units left at home, but right now they're not making much of a play, and none of the units can make a play against the carriers. There's just no response there at all until the Tempests show up. Those Disruptors cannot find an angle just yet.
Yeah, for sure. And I think I also agree with you. It is a good response on paper, right? To try to use the mobility of your army, an army that cannot really engage onto this army anyway. You got to try and do something. But at the same time, I mean, this approach is much more effective when you have the economy, when you have the map control to kind of contend with your opponent, to throw away units and trade a little bit less cost efficiently. Here it's Harstem with all the cards. Goblin does get a base for his efforts, but he's going to lose 2. And he's only going to have 1 remaining mining base, whereas Harstem still has 3 or so. So looking very, very difficult now with a little bit of a recall, trying to pull back and go for a final stand, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what choice do you really have? Is Harstem's in the main going to shut down production? Yeah, I mean, Harstem, the thing is as well, Harstem lost some probes during this. It probably isn't a bad thing to be able to just get more army supply going, because I guess that's one thing he could have lost to, just not having enough standing army supply on the map. We do see Tempest making a play to get rid of some of these carriers, but the Disruptors hit the Stalkers trying to blink up the ramp, and Harstem will recall away. We'll lose a few things as he recalls, but I just don't think it really matters. He has done more than enough. He's traded well enough. He hasn't taken anywhere near enough damage to be out of this on the other side, and he's already set to re-push forward again. He was just basically wanting to reset out of the main base of Goblins, so it was never an awkward fight for him.
Yeah, this might just be it, as Harstem now goes for the last remaining mining base of Goblin. And if Goblin doesn't feel like he might take the fight and maybe lose the game here, or maybe come back into it if he takes a miracle fight. But okay, Harstem is actually going to respect the army of Goblin for the time being. He knows that he has the economy to work with as well, right? Like, he doesn't need to kill this base to be ahead. So I think this is a respectable choice from Harstem, even though I think he could have cleaned up and maybe closed out the game right there and then.
Yeah, I don't disagree, right? Just back it up, be a little bit safe. Why not? Yeah, I don't mind it. As he's just still got run-bys coming in. He knows that Goblin is hurting, and then he just can't afford to have the stacked defense or whatever else he might need back at home to realistically keep defending. So yeah, Harstem just continues to punish that as Goblin moves onto the map, trying to find a way to basically win. I mean, what does he have to do? He has to win this fight really one-sidedly, Goblin, if he wants to have a chance, because then he has to go forward straight after and basically shut down bases and more or less win the game off of it. So we'll see if he can do so. Generally, that's going to be tough unless you find fantastic disruptor shots, and Harstem has disruptor shots of his own that are just landing constantly throughout, and he's making his way across the map, catching Tempest as well. It's so painful. The disruptor shot's now going to find the Stalkers too, and it's just not going to be enough from Goblin. There is no way. Stalkers are not far from being able to get on top of these Tempests, I'm sure, and Goblin knows that this one is over. Harstem will grab himself a game 1 victory here. A little while, but that's, to me, very kind of Harstem-esque, right? Just playing a slow macro game, getting into a position you're comfortable with, and then seizing control, then punishing your opponents and taking advantage of the situation. Yeah, very clean. It felt like he was in control the entire time, right? Like, there never was a moment in the game where it felt like Goblin had an advantage. There were points in the game where it felt like Goblin could have maybe brought it back to where, the Disruptors could have had a say in the matter when they were both maxed. But really, it was Harstem always with the little advantages that you were mentioning. Tech-wise, he was faster in the transitions, better with the DTs, better with the tools out on the map, with the vision, with everything, really. And yeah, kind of a clinic here from Harstem. So Goblins are gonna have to bounce back. And yeah, a little bit of what Gongfu was saying as well. Harstem is very good at exactly this, at defending the cheese, at defending the proxies, at being alert in the early game and not falling behind from those. Yeah, and he really was on point, right? Like, he was so good defensively against those 2 Oracles. And it wasn't like he had, like you say, like a massive lead. The Oracles got a couple probes. He just played so well around it. He didn't give the Oracles any further opportunities. He just took his bases a little bit sooner, sat a couple of workers ahead the entire time. And eventually he just used what was a better army because he was just way faster to get to the Disruptors. And that's all he had to do. He just checked all the boxes of how to win this game over the next few minutes. And yeah, it took to 20 minutes, but doesn't matter. You get the win in the end. Going to Data C for map 2. It'll be fun to see how this one works as well, because it's another map that,
another one
is large, But this time you've got that ramp to expand with, perhaps. So there's going to be some question marks as we kick off with the bottom left. Red Brawlers player from the Shopify Rebellion and up 1-0. It is Harstem.
And in the top right-hand side, it is for Platinum Heroes, Goblin. Speaking to him, he was a little bit nervous as well before this match. So, I mean, there's a lot to be determined here for him, right? If he can take this one down, he is in such an incredible position to advance.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those ones where it's like, you've done even like, you've already done bigger and better things almost because you took down Max Banks. But now it's your time to kind of take on the one guy that you're probably most looking at for contesting playoff spots, So then it's like, if you win this, you're like, man, this almost me getting the kind of playoff somewhat guaranteed. So, yeah, a lot of nerves that you might not usually expect to see. And, yeah, obviously that can have quite the impact as well.
Yeah, and on the flip side for Harstem, I mean, he can't afford to lose this match, right? So if he wants to advance, he is going to be contending with Goblin, and Goblin does have that annoying for Harstem match against MaxPax because MaxPax is expected to beat everyone else. So including himself, probably, right, on paper. So he really wants to take this one down, and we'll see if he's able to close it in 2-0 fashion. As you were mentioning, there is a ramp on this map, so Goblin has gone for the gateway on the low ground. As he spots the probe of his opponent with his own probe crossing the map, he takes the second gas and will now set up to go for a cybercore. So still to be determined where he's gonna go from here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's gonna be well, kind of fun, right? With Harstem having that high ground setup. If Goblin's the one to faster expand, that's it's such a change of pace from what he's been shown in a lot of the previous games. So kind of excited to see just what Harstem does, maybe, because maybe Harstem says, "Yo, you want to expand? Yeah, let's see if you can. What if I bring out my fast, 3-gate robo or some kind of aggression to stop you getting there?" Yeah, obviously the next couple minutes can tell us a lot about this game, what to expect.
Yep.
And love this, getting the block off once again, just slowing it down. Obviously, Goblin blocking the natural of Harstem doesn't matter because Harstem's playing 2 gates. He can put his money into unit production. So even if he wants to expand, he can get enough units out to, bypass the fact he gets delayed on the expansion.
Yeah, good news for Goblin, however, is that he killed the probe very early on for Harstem there, as Harstem didn't have room for maneuvering after dropping the pylon. So that kind of makes it easy for him to know, okay, like I'm floating just a little bit over 400, I can drop my Nexus as soon as I get rid of this pylon. There's not going to be any further blocking. So there isn't that difficult decision to make between, do I kind of hope that there isn't a second block that I can zone off the probe and have to now drop a tech building like a Stargate, or can I just drop my Nexus? So he will get away with his Nexus. And that is a good feeling. It's going to be Robo on the side of Goblin, Stargate on the side of Harstem.
Yeah, very fun stuff. Like I say, to me, the fast Robo is something Harstem loves to do. But it's going to be Goblin with that on his side, and Harstem going to be playing with the Stargate units this time. Has to spend the recall to save the Stalker. Would have been really bad to then spend that recall and not save the Stalker. But fortunately, it gets away, and the Stalker is alive.
Yeah, I love the repositioning of the units there from Goblin, right? Every time that the Stalker shoots, he moves them closer to the other Stalker because he knows the recall is going to come in, and there is a missile that has to reach the Stalker, right? So minimizing the distance between the Stalker and the other Stalker and the missile in between, so that he gives himself the best shot at preventing the recall but unable to.
Let's see what happens from here then. Obviously, our Oracle's about to hit the map. That's going to be one of our main points of interest for a while. Goblin just going to get an Observer, much faster Twilight Council, and of course Blink is a very powerful mid-game, setup that we see pretty much every Protoss player get to at some point in a PvP. So Goblin will have the advantage there. It becomes a bit more important then for Harstem to have a good time with the Oracle, get some damage done, give him some economic advantages to work with over the Blink advantage of his opponent.
Yeah, there's going to be 2 sentries here, but a little bit of caught off guard is going to be Goblin by the hallucination as well of Harstem, right? That was pulling his attention towards that side of things, and then the Oracle hits from the other side. Now attempting to go into the main. There is a shield battery there for Goblin. So the Phoenix almost taunting him.
Stasis, or just take a chance to get out from the corner, right? Because then you can reset. You can either re-engage back into the main forward Stasis, or maybe you can come around and hit the natural a second time. It just makes it a bit more tough for Goblin to know where Harstem's Oracle is going to be coming from, instead of, it's in the back corners. So You know, I'm watching for it there this entire time or something. As Goblin goes Dark Shrine already as well, by the way, so he is not messing around, trying to really make the most of having had a few workers lead, and also the fact that he's had the tech advantage.
Yes, indeed, and a faster third as well on the side of Goblin. That's going to be spotted by that Oracle, which now pulls back to revelate the Observer, which was spotted from the side of Harstem. So well done. The Oracle, like you were saying, I mean, had that freedom to go between the main and the natural, but gets spotted by the third, but also spots the third of Goblin. So kind of, you know, a little bit of a double-edged sword there on either side. And let's see what this Dark Shrine amounts to. Do you reckon it's going to do anything?
I think so. I think it's very smart because he knows that with the way Harstem was playing, he's likely to skip the Robo. And Harstem only ever built a single Oracle, right? So he's like, his detection is limited.
You see it.
Yeah, the Scout is huge. Instantly we see a Forge dropping down, he clicks on it. Yeah, okay, this is big because now the Oracle stays at home. With it only being a single Oracle, it's like, there really was, I think, a big opportunity for DTs to do a lot of damage. But yeah, the Scout is obviously going to really nullify a lot of what the DTs might have done in terms of just catching Harstem off guard. So, yeah, I mean, critical Scout really for Harstem because, yeah, I think to answer your question, it would have done a lot.
Yeah, it was looking to be rather massive there. But yeah, Harstem instantly with a Forge as well, like you were mentioning, he's going to be able to drop cannons in whatever bases he feels are susceptible, starts his +1 as well as a result. And things are once again looking good for him, just on the back of very diligent scouting and very diligent information gathering and good reacting from Harstem. Here comes the first DT. It's going to be instantly revelated, but actually not dealt with right away, so it will take three probes with it. Not bad.
That's nice. Goblin is maintaining a worker lead throughout this series, right? Or throughout this game, sorry. So it's just something which a few probes here and there helps with. And yeah, I mean, DT's dead, but mining time lost, workers killed. You know, for Goblin being up in workers, losing a DT or two is absolutely fine in this situation.
Yeah, and I love what Goblin did there as well, just sending 3 DTs to 3 different bases, because he says, okay, you spotted me, so you might keep your Oracle back. If that is your response, then, you know, your Oracle can't be in 3 bases at once. Of course, Harstem did drop the Forge right away, so good on him, and doesn't take that much damage, but I still like the idea for Goblin, who's going to warp in 1 more DT, will get spotted right away, and like you revelated, going to be used to take the Watchtower. But yeah, revelated it is. Here come the Stalkers. They prioritize the War Prism, which was the only escape mechanism for the DT. And both of those units will fall.
Yeah, that's a nice shutdown for sure. Don't mind him taking the Prism out of the equation nice and quickly, as and you just have then 4 bases each. I mean, honestly, this kind of starts to look to be somewhat similar to the last game in a way. Obviously, Goblin has a better economy than Harstem, which wasn't true last time around. But Harstem's already making his way to that Robo Bay. Goblin's a little bit more hesitant about going to the Robo Bay himself, but if he spots the Robo Bay, he might just respond with his own Robo Bay much sooner, unless he believes he can just overwhelm, which I don't think is true. You know, yeah, he's had a worker lead throughout, but does he really have the extra gates and production kicking in to the point where he could truly, like, overwhelm Harstem? Yeah, that I don't really believe at all, so yeah, I think Goblin's probably just going to have to look at his own disruptors, but yeah, he will be later to them, and hopefully just not as late as he was last time, because when they finally came up last time, they helped him a lot. It's just it was too far gone by then, and Harstem still had all the openings to take advantage of.
Yeah, he seems to, like you said, have those same type of setup as last game Harstem does. And yeah, I mean, this map not particularly easy to attack into the first 4 bases either. The ramps are going to prevent that. Now, venturing into the 5th base territory, this is a little bit more of an open ground, a little bit further away. So players are going to be spreading themselves a little bit thin, and here is where run-bys and the likes are going to start being a little bit more effective for the player that can find ways to capitalize on those.
Absolutely. Just going to have Harstem setting some zealots up on the bottom right-hand side. Obviously, extra robos coming online. We've got Shadow Stride coming in from Goblin, looking to make further use of his DTs. I imagine Harstem's Shadow Stride is not going to be too far behind either, because when he finishes up his Dark Shrine, this isn't a Dark Shrine to warp in a couple DTs and see what they can do. That's an investment for harassment into the later stages of the game. So when you're playing with that, you're obviously talking about Shadow Stride. Now, though, Harstem's on the map, and he actually is going to take position and try and deny this 5th. Disrupt the shot, denied with the blink in. Harstem will drop force fields to help him escape out of here. That was a scary moment.
Yeah, beautiful from Goblin here. However, you gotta be careful with the stasis trap. It will get procced. And yeah, Harstem, I mean, he has been so quick to gather information. Really impressive. A little bit reminiscent of, like, a little bit Sarah-esque, right? At the risk of being a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? Blasphemous, I guess. But
yeah.
yeah, a little blasphemous perhaps, but yeah, it really reminds me of Cyril more than anyone else. Just the way that Harstem has been gathering information throughout this series, throughout this game, just on point. The 5th gets dropped, Stalker is there to spot it, right? Like the positioning on the observers, the information gathering with the hallucinated Phoenix, knowing that there's stuff missing, looking for something, finding the Dark Shrine, just time and time again. He has been so very good at defense. And when I say Cyril-esque, I almost mean the 2018 Cyril type style. Of course, Cyril's a Cert player, and this one's Harstem's a Protoss player, but you know, we haven't seen much aggression from Harstem either, and maybe that is the next step of the evolution. Here's Goblin once again for a very risky blink, but it's gonna pay off, at least for the first 2 disruptors. The 3rd one is gonna connect from the flank, the 4th one also with a good connection as Harstem looks to evacuate the rest of the Stalkers by blinking over Zealots and Stalkers. However, they will die, at least a few of them in the process, and now Goblin with a supply advantage of those trades.
Yeah, that was kind of wild. Goblin had a little supply lead going in as well. Harstem fired the 2nd disruptor immediately, but the 2nd disruptor got killed as well. If he fired the 3rd one immediately as well, and don't get me wrong, the 3rd one finally did get a good shot off, but he could have been a little bit sooner to it, and that would have maybe helped. As now Harstem continues to rely on these disruptors to try and keep him okay. I think he's probably going to be losing his 5th base, though. The stack defense being built here will not come online in time to aid him in a fight. Would have obviously liked to have maybe seen that cancelled. His Zealot DT counterattack will not do anything either. It's already been pulled away, so yeah, Harstem not really hitting well on any front at all, and Goblin with the successful deny on a base going to put himself into a very good place.
Yeah, very, very good place indeed, which is kind of strange to me because, again, looking at how the game has been played out and how many props we've been given to Harstem, it has looked pretty good for him, and a lot of the attempts of Goblin haven't been too fruitful, but just a couple of things going his way, perhaps catching Harstem in the transition, but he's even ahead in upgrades also, Goblin. Very, very impressive.
Yeah, clean up this little top left harassment force as well. Harstem is not too far from maxing, but of course Goblin has just so much more money to max and then remax with, so problems galore, really. And of course, stack defense is very costly for Harstem too right now. That's something Goblin can invest into freely if he needs to kind of shore up his bases against some of these harassing Zealots and DTs, so yeah, again, just a lot of stuff leaning into Goblin's favor for the moment. As he comes around this bottom side, these are the sort of fights I don't think Goblin can take too easily, though. He only has that lone disruptor, right? So pushing into all of these disruptors, I mean, the disruptor count is the one thing Harstem has massively on his side. And so far, that's going to be good enough to save him and keep him going in this game. And that's obviously a big start because that's going to buy him the time to get maxed out and maybe set up in other ways.
Yeah, Goblin's gonna smell something coming from that revelation from the Oracle there.
That's a wild revelation. Yeah. I feel like the revelation almost gave it up as the disruptors are on their own on the bottom side, by the way. I mean, Goblin should see that. Harstem should see it too. Yeah, jeez, like trying to protect themselves, and honestly, they do okay with it. Stalkers are blinking back to protect, and somehow this is okay for Harstem. I felt like it should have been an absolute nightmare, but he makes it work out okay. That is crazy.
That is absolutely crazy. Yeah, 2 different fronts where the fight didn't look too good, right? Those disruptors isolated, but eventually the army of Harstem merges and he will be safe for the time being. But if we look at the bank, I mean, Goblin has so much of it. He really needs to start trading this army. Harstem really likes these big groups of DTs, and they did wonders for him the previous game, so we'll see if he can replicate that as well. But yeah, I mean, Goblin, he has also 9 more workers. So he really wants to be trading, right, Wardy? He really wants to maybe do 2 prongs because he is going up against those disruptors, kind of like what he was doing. And yeah, gotta be trading right now.
No, absolutely. I mean, you have the eco to fight, rebuild, fight again. And yeah, 2 prongs, absolutely, because you're trying to outposition your opponent's disruptors. That is a guaranteed kill for Harstem. And he's just going to keep sending disruptors down this ramp. Get a bit of stack defense. We see if Zealot's plan coming in. They're going to get on top of the disruptors, perhaps. And obviously, Harstem just used 4 disruptors.
Oh, what?
There. He recalls just the disruptors. He kills his opponent's disruptors. Oh my goodness, these Stalkers are obviously going to be a little bit stuck right now. They're getting chased away. DTs are going to blink in though as well. Suddenly, Harstem's got everything going on. He just needs to try and find a way out with his Stalkers. He's got Zealots showing up too. These disruptors on the side, the Stalkers are in so much trouble. He does get a bit of a blink. He does not finish the disruptors off. His own disruptors coming back into play as well from the original recall. And what a crazy few moments. The DTs went big, but he did lose a few of them. He is just going to sneak some out alive at least, which is obviously really important because, well, DTs are expensive. You can keep them alive for a second time around, and that is incredible.
Oh no! Lose a sight of them though. And yeah, I mean, Harstem will actually just protect them with the rest of his army. I thought that was a flank from Goblin. But yeah, I mean, Goblin now with this two-prong aggression looking to make something happen. He is still nearly maxed. Now behind in workers. Did get a base taken down from those DTs, but was a base up anyway. Oh, big shot there.
Goblin's hitting massive disruptor shots. For having less disruptors throughout the game, he's getting so much more value from his disruptors. He's only had 4 disruptors all game long. Harstem's had 7. So even though Harstem's army has been that much better, he's just not been able to find the value with that army. And that has been one of the major issues for him as Goblin finds himself escaping away once more. Still more money in the bank. He does have less workers now, but Harstem doesn't have the base to utilize those workers. It doesn't really matter. Those are the 2 disruptors right now of Goblin, and they hit from very far away, but Harstem is in position to chase further.
Yeah, Harstem, one of my favorite players to watch when it comes to building, positioning, by the way. Like, he always has really good wall-offs, especially in PvC, but even here, he had that one shield battery that was so difficult to get to in the base that Goblin just hit. It was like surrounded by like 3 different pylons and like a cannon and stuff, so the DTs not really easily finding the surface area. Give Harstem a lot of time to come back and defend that base accordingly. Now taking good position here on this high ground. I'm gonna siege this base with those disruptors. Carriers on the field now for Goblin. Harstem is making his own. And Goblin actually blinking on forward, knowing that a lot of those disruptor shots have already been spent. I like that move from him. I'm gonna pick off 2 on the retreat.
Yeah, a couple going down. Obviously, we get maxed out here once again. Just Tempest coming up from Harstem. He's playing the kind of role that Goblin had to play last time around. If you get to enough Tempest, obviously you can clean out carriers quickly. These fights generally should be okay for you, but we'll see if they can be. Harstem obviously is jumping on the right side as he's getting hit on the left, so fights all over the place. Harstem ends up retreating away. I guess he doesn't have the detection or the observer there that he needs to fight back. Obviously just a lot going on in short moments. Yeah, Harstem going to lose a disruptor, but somewhat still affordable. The problem is you just can't deal with these carriers and the interceptors. This base will go down. It's a scary position to lose when carriers are the problem because they have access into the main and a lot of your production from there as well. So I can't imagine Harstem's too happy about that. And yeah, there you go. This is exactly the issue. If you can't control those carriers, they will just extend their advantage up into that main base.
Yeah, very good point. So Harstem's gonna retake that position, even though there is very little to mine left there, but he is kind of starved as well, and Goblin has done a good job to control things on the other side as well. He has been winning those DT versus DT fights just by virtue of, I think, being better on the detection front. Yeah, I mean now 2 observers joining in with those zealots, and yeah, Goblin with complete control of the map right now, and this game, I dare say, it's the bank is wildly in his favor. The army looks better for him. The upgrades are starting to look good as well. And yeah, what does Harstem need to do here, Wardy?
I think just get to more Tempest, right? Like, to me, if you get to enough Tempest to fight these carriers can die very quickly. Harstem is going to ask for a pause for whatever reason. So, an issue perhaps. Looks like it's going to be dealt with very quickly, though. So, quick pause. Get resumed. Yeah, I think it's just the Tempest, man. And, like, he's a bit maxed out right now. It's just like, if you get enough Tempest, it feels like the carriers aren't great. So you can just chew through the carriers, and then are you not just in a great position? I feel like, yeah. I mean, he's got a lot of Stalkers as well. He just needs to get past these Disruptors. If he can get past the Disruptors one time, the Stalkers shoot everything down themselves. So he just needs to deal with the Disruptors. And if he can do that, like Unelli did right there, then yeah, I think Harstem is still very much so in business.
Yeah, for sure. Goblin will be the one to find another disruptor here on offense and continues to siege this base while he has that advantage, while the Tempest numbers are not out in full force. So those carriers not really under too much threat. I also don't see an Oracle on the side of Harstem, which is going to make it a little bit more difficult for those Tempests to really find the shots onto the backlines there. So Goblin once again with a strong victory here in this position.
I feel like Harstem should be, I know it's a bit risky, but maybe he's in the position he needs to take the risk of just getting some Stalkers around the right and just find a way to, again, just blink on top of the Disruptors almost and just go for it. I just feel like if you get rid of those, everything else can become such a possibility in the game again. So, yeah. It's tough, though. I mean, losing that base repeatedly just definitely is hurting him. He just doesn't have the other bases to go to right now, unfortunately.
Yeah, massive bank here from Goblin as well, so he really has his choice of whatever he wants to remake should his army fall. The carrier's trying to get on top of the Tempest. Instead, it's going to be the Stalkers to protect them. Now here comes the Disruptors to zone off said Stalkers. And this position will be forfeit once again for Harstem, right? Because if the carriers do get on top of the Tempest, we were talking about how the Tempest can really zone up and kill these carriers. But if it's a head-to-head fight, the carriers are going to wreck through those very, very fast.
Yeah, I feel like you should have just, at some point, just committed here, though, right? Because now it feels like you've given up way too many bases, way too much stuff. I mean, his chase is going pretty well. The DT's providing the vision, which he didn't have beforehand because he didn't have, like, you know, an Oracle, like you mentioned, for Revelation. No, now a lot of these carriers going down. The Stalkers make a blink as well. One of them carriers just getting away. The Disruptors are left there. You've got DT still chasing after. I feel like, I guess he just used his blink, but that maybe would have been nice to just finish off those Disruptors because, again, without those, everything else feels so killable. Can we save this base? Harstem needs base so badly. Without that, he has no mining.
Gotta go now, I think.
Yeah, he's just all in on this army, right? You just don't even really have the money to re-expand.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you. If he finishes off those Disruptors, then the Stalkers can really cover for the Tempest. If the carriers cannot get on top of the Tempest, then the Tempest will get rid of those carriers eventually, right? So, but with these Disruptors in play, you can't really blink forward. You can't really do much to zone off with the Stalkers because the Disruptor's job is going to be on top of those Stalkers. So let's see what happens here. Goblin biding his time. He knows that he can. If we look at the income tab, actually, should we look at the income tab? That's gotta be demoralizing if we do. But yeah, like look at that. It's kind of getting out of control for Goblin here, and it's not gonna get any better for Harstem anytime soon. He can't even afford an expansion. He's at 360 minerals right now. So yeah, the longer this goes, the better for Goblin.
What I did like about the income tab though was it showed that 5 minutes ago this was still a very doable game on the side of Harstem, right? It was still very winnable in that regard. And that, I think, is very important to know because he was in an okayish position. It's been Goblin being able to deny these bases and keep that presence on the map that really has pushed Harstem into being in too bad of a position now, more so than anything else. So, yeah, because I feel like it's easy to just look at this game and be like, oh, yeah, you know, Goblin's been winning the entire time, which, yeah, he has been, but it got to a point where Harstem was very much so within reach of playing this game. He just needed to find a fight, but yeah, Goblin never gave it to him.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, we were talking about it even earlier about how when the players start taking their fourth, their fifth, that's when there's openings for those Rambuys. I think that those are when Goblin started getting ahead. He was a little bit faster to the DT, so the DT blink this time around, and he did great work with that. Now Harstem blinking on forward. However, he is gonna get pretty good trades onto those carriers, and there is one Disruptor shot in the back there for Goblin. Now gonna get focus fired as Harstem sees which one is lit up, and it's actually gonna be Harstem winning this fight. But if we look at the supply, it's still Goblin trending pretty nicely and upwardly. Maybe he has to give up one base here. I don't want him to try to defend everything if he's gonna keep a hold of this game. Just kind of back away, reset, get maxed out again perhaps, and try again. I don't want to see Goblin contest here.
No, I feel like you give it this base. Harstem has to go. I think he has to notice or know that he's got to go as well, right? Yeah, he's got some Disruptors on his side. He's just got to commit, get rid of these Zealots, I suppose. And you'll have new Tempest on the way out as well from Goblin, which will be coming in from the sides very soon, I'm sure. These Zealots are the issue. You've got no way to get rid of Zealots of your opponent, so these Zealots are just putting in work, and they're taking way too long to kind of chew through. And yeah, Stalker's now blinking in for the Disruptors of Harstem as he blinks back to try and deal with it. It is just going to be going the wrong way. So GG's, and that is going to be Goblin picking up a game number 2 of this series. We are going distance for the second time today, guys.
Yeah, beautiful game. I'm even surprised that he took that last engage because I think he could have afforded to lose 2, maybe 3 bases and still being in a commanding lead. But maybe he doesn't know just how fast Harstem was able to retake or how he wasn't able to retake a base after he hurt the economy as much as he did. So yeah, makes a stand there, protects his bases, and wins by what looks like a large margin towards the end there. But a very well fought out game. Great defense from Harstem at the start. Just unable to really kind of like get the ball rolling there.
Yeah, no, it just, like I say, it just always was naturally behind that little bit and then just couldn't really quite find. I felt like at moments there was definitely like DTs which should have been able to do more, but that was something I think Goblin did really well with. He was always so good defensively with his own DTs. He didn't let Goblin's counterattacks get Harstem back in the game or anything, so that was honestly just a really good game of PvP, right? Very back and forth. Yeah, I mean, very technical as well, like a lot of, thought going into it. And really one which I think at the end, maybe Goblin just having that extra base along from Harstem for a good portion probably just helped a lot more in as well, right? So yeah, definitely some big things. And going to look forward to what we see on Inside and Out, which is once again a very different map. Definitely the smallest map we've played on so far for these two in the PvP.
For sure, yeah, very well matched for each other, these two players, and I really like the little things that they both do. Like Harstem proposes a lot of problems for Goblin to solve, and Goblin is very good at solving those problems. Just like paying attention to the little details during the fights, like what they are going for, like even in breaking a position from your opponent, like like there's these little pylons that you gotta take down to make room for your zealots to run into the base, and Goblin identifies this sort of thing very quickly, very well. And it is just really fun to watch. So I am loving this PvP series. I'm glad we're in a game 3. And spawning in the top right-hand side, it is the red Protoss player for the Shopify Rebellion, the captain, Harstem.
In the bottom left, representing the Platinum Heroes, bringing it to 1-1. Such an important match we talked about because these two are expected to be competing over similar spots from this group into the playoffs. And to get this big win, it's Goblin.
Would be massive.
Would be.
Against the Vlaardigan giant himself, that would be insane.
And this group's actually a very fun group as well, right? Especially now, because this group keeps getting mixed up, because now Clem just lost to Gung-Fu, so Gung-Fu's 2-1. And like Gung-Fu, Goblin, Harstem, these are all players who very easily trade maps, and it's not like the other players in the groups are going to be players that are just guaranteed wins for them either. It's going to be actually kind of rough for Harstem because he lost 2-0 to Gung-Fu as well. So if he loses to Goblin as well, then in my eyes he's losing to both the players he's expecting to compete with, for third/fourth playoff slot for. So then that
both of them have absurd wins against MaxPax and Clem respectively as well. So yeah.
That puts the pressure on Harstem to basically beat one of MaxPax or Clem.
Yeah.
I mean,
and then some. I mean, even if he does that, he's lost both head to head. So maybe it puts pressure on him to beat both MaxPax and Clem.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
which is just I mean, very difficult.
Yeah, it's crazy how much can get to how much can go onto these groups so quickly, right? Like, how much adds up so quickly, and so it's still just week 1, but we can already see the impact of this. This time next week we will be talking about some of these results and be like, hey, look, he had to do this because of that. He didn't get it done, and so he's out. That's where we'll be 1 week from now.
And it is such an explosive start because of these upsets, right? Because it could also be the case in a different season that we're looking at 1 week from now, and we're like, yeah, I mean, it's, they played, but he lost to Clem, but everyone's going to lose to Clem. Lost to MaxPax, but everyone's going to lose to MaxPax. Instead, we're like, I'm not sure what's going to happen here. It's actually just kind of up in the air. And can you imagine a world where, I mean, Clem or MaxPax, they drop one more series to one of these players while they're hot? Yeah. I mean, there is a world, Wardy, where one of those guys doesn't advance.
Mm-hmm. It's wild, man. Like, this is the fun part about DreamHack groups. Like, so much can happen. It can get very fun, very exciting. Yeah, love it. Just feels like it's been awesome lately. It's like I say, already kind of heating up in these groups as well. Very fun stuff.
Very fun stuff indeed. It's gonna be now Harstem trailing behind in the expansion as Goblin nearly has his completed, and a 4-stocker investment from Harstem early on as well, just to stay safe. So if he doesn't manage to find any damage with this, he's the latest expansion for not too much. The Adept trying to get in here, but there is a probe at the wall, so this Adept will most likely be forfeited, trying to run away as fast as possible and as far as possible while his shade continues. Some Adepts are faster than others, Wardy.
Some Adepts
That's just not true.
I was like thinking about it, it's just like the shades, like
no. That would be cool though.
We can pretend it. Some of your Adepts just spawn with like a gold star next to them. It's like the super Adept. It has +2 movement.
That would be amazing. I mean, there is some RNG on the shooting of the probes and SCVs and drones, right? Like the rate of fire, yeah.
Well, on every
that would be
right?
cool. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, I guess more noticeable on some units versus others, especially
it's most noticeable when you just have the like same units fighting each other, like Reaper versus Reaper and stuff. That randomized delay.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Well, good scout here from Goblin. We'll actually grant him vision of that robo as it drops. So Yeah, not ideal for Harstem. He has a lot of units. I'm surprised Goblin is actually pushing out, given the amount of units that Harstem has, but I guess he sees the third and wants to apply some pressure. Does have an Immortal to work with.
Yeah, Immortal to work with obviously helps out quite a lot in these situations, and that's where Harstem will have to be a little careful.
No battery.
He does have a good Stalker count, but yeah, the Immortal just chunks, right? Like, let's see. Yeah. I mean, Force Field play a big role here as well. Harstem's going to get stuck in with the Force Field. He loses his own Sentry that had a Force Field left, but he does have Guardian Shield. He's going to have Bling now as well.
Wow.
So he gets the Immortal,
So
and now
confident.
he's got so many more Stalkers. Oh, it was a misplay for Goblin, and it's such an easy one to make, because even we looked at this and said, yeah, it probably looks good for him with all of the information on the screen, but Harstem scrambles everything together, and getting the Immortal, doing well, very well there. Fantastic job, and wow, I mean, what a great defense from Harstem. Down a few probes, though, but I guess that's where the faster Nexus, that faster third base is going to make up for it a little bit, and he can pressure himself with his Stalkers now.
Yeah, he has Blink, so there's no real risk in pressuring with his Stalkers. He can always disengage, he can always get out if Goblin has enough. And yeah, I mean, this is looking fantastic for Harstem. Yeah, I looked at that fight. I thought, okay, the unit numbers are pretty similar, and there's an Immortal on the side of Goblin. Goblin probably thinking along the same lines, but Harstem's so confident there with the micro and so confident in going to target the Immortal. And yeah, I mean, avoiding the Force Fields, which were basically null because of how early the Blink was, which is probably what Goblin wasn't accounting for. Good job from these two Adepts to find a couple of probes, but the Recall will find the two Adepts in turn. At least manages to make him disengage from his side, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously getting him back across the other side is nice. Couple probes gonna go down helps as well, as you do have charge and the Prism on the way from Harstem. Harstem definitely just having that kind of Blink advantage right now. Then he's gonna have the charge advantage. It feels like he can get so much done with just continued pressure, and actually gonna be impressive. Goblin can keep that third alive. Right now, the two Immortals are great, but once the Zealots involved, the two Immortals don't look anywhere near as great, and I especially love this. Harstem picks the barrier off of one, so that's going to be a little bit more vulnerable, and there's no battery on this third base. If Harstem goes, I mean, he's just built a Prism, hitting this third feels like an amazing idea, no?
Yes, absolutely. And yeah, like you're saying, I mean, I think he is going to look for that timing. He is now hitting charge. The War Prism is angling to where it looks like he wants to go towards the main, though, and maybe do something else. So maybe Harstem not with the same idea here, not looking to exploit the amount of Immortals that his opponent has had to put out, or the lack of a shield battery there. But I completely agree with you. I think that would have been a prime target that he could have easily taken down right now.
Yep. Well, do you see Harstem just setting up pylons? Yeah, I feel like just missing an opportunity. And I get it, you see a couple of Immortals and that seems scary. Maybe his gateway count just wasn't there. It's only 4, so what you add in, like 4 Zealots each time, is probably just not enough to really be scary. If he was already on like 6, then maybe that is the time and he could hit, but yeah, at this point, worker count's even, and Goblin's the one taking down some rocks to push in, maybe looking to try and utilize his own Immortal count, but I mean, really feel like Zealots have had some time to get in now, and extra gateways being ready. Let's see if Harstem can hold.
Very good concave from Goblin. He has a lot of Stalkers and he's warping in his Zealots. They don't have charge, but it doesn't matter if your opponent is running Zealots at them, right? They're gonna trade all the same. So as long as they're not getting kited forever, and as long as the Zealots stay near the Stalkers, which is exactly what Goblin is going for right now, they will be helpful. It's this shield battery that he's gonna have to contend with and find a way for those Immortals to output the damage onto the Stalkers, which they haven't been able to do. But great concave here from Goblin so far, and good trades seemingly in his favor for the time being.
Yeah, these two Immortals trying to get further forward. The super battery's gonna get jumped on now. He just fully commits. The probes got pulled, but they had to come the long way around. I mean, the probes are a great call because nothing really deals with probes well. DTs are in play though, and what the heck is there to deal with DTs? Well, there's 2 observers. There's one at home not in position, the other one a bit too far back sometimes here. Oh no, Goblins have done enough anyway, hasn't he? This army supply is one-sided. The DTs are not going to change it, and it looks as though Goblin is going to get a massive W in this group stage.
It sure looks like it. There's another DT in the main right now as one Immortal unfortunately walks to its death, and Harstem is gonna GG, and out of nowhere